want to start with serious stuff? Let's just start with serious stuff and get it out of the way, and then we'll have some fun. So I'm going to start with you, Corey. Grayson McCall's decision to retire from football, I think, is an incredibly mature decision. It takes, obviously, he was told by doctors, family members, that this was, for him, the best path forward to go as far as he can to guaranteeing a normal, healthy, long life. But just your thoughts on the injury to McCall and the decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a tough one because you can tell, like, if you haven't read the memo or the note that he put out there on Instagram, it was clearly a very difficult decision for him to make, and one that he said, it's an injury I can't recover from, essentially.
Right.
And, as much as he wanted to come back to football, and I think it was, in his best interest to probably never play football again. But again, having to come to terms with that, something that he's loved for his entire life. And, he posted pictures of him playing when he was like 10, 11 years old. Yeah. And it's a really tough decision to make. But yeah, as far as the rest of life thing here, that discussion, you don't want him to make a decision where he's going to have to return and leads to further injury for him.
Mike, you played for a long time, probably played football from a very young age. So I'm sure you've had a concussion in your life. Can you put yourself in that position of setting aside your life's dreams because of an injury like this?
I think it's an interesting kind of discussion to have, and I've had it with players who didn't play quarterback, and I think that's something that's very interesting to me. Is same thing with Tua Tagovailoa, where people are calling for him to quit. Obviously, Grayson McCall, who we're talking about right now, and so it is a very. I think there's a position-specific way to discuss this, and I don't think that we do a really good job of it. But when quarterbacks get hit, it looks worse. When quarterbacks are hurt, it looks worse. When if you talk to an offensive lineman, like you mentioned off the rip that, I played football, I probably have had, a concussion. I was like, a concussion. Okay. But it's one of those things. My wife is worried about me constantly. And right. And Corey, you spoke to quality of life. Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, that's one of those things with respect to short-term memory. Like, he's lucky, though. He is lucky. And this is what I'll say this about him. I'll say it about Tua. I'll say it about anyone that plays quarterback. Steve Young, doesn't matter. Yes, you get concussed. Yes, you do take big hits. But what you don't have on a play-to-play basis, and I'm not just talking about football games. I'm talking about in practice. What you don't have are those subconcussive blows that lead to what ultimately really do lead to CTE. And I think we have to change the way that we look at football, because it's not just the hit that looks the worst on television to someone, whether they're playing fantasy or just rooting for their team. It's a lot of those every play in practice for a center, for a guard, for a tackle, for a defensive tackle. Those are the things that add up. And ultimately, which is why we end up with guys like Junior Seau, Mike Webster. And I just wish we could reframe the narrative without centering the quarterback, but still being empathetic and sympathetic to the quarterback position. All
right, I'm going to bring up Tua here in a second. I've been saying this for a long time. Calling them concussions is, and I'm not trying to be political here, is both sidesing an obvious issue, right? To me, why not call them what they are? They're brain injuries.
Yeah, TBIs.
Right? I mean, if somebody's on the injury report with a knee, it's a knee injury. If it's a concussion, list brain injury. And I think people will treat them differently. I think the general public, because, back in the day, if we go back 40 years, guys pretended, hey, Tua Tagovailoa 2 years ago pretended to not have a concussion. He was obviously concussed on the field. So let me forward it to Tua, because when everybody was calling for his retirement, how it was 5 weeks ago, whatever it was, 6 weeks ago, I went, he's not going to retire. Unless he is forced to retire, he will not retire, because these guys are wired a different way. And who knows, if Grayson McCall had a pro career staring at him in the face, he might have made a different decision too, because there's only so much you can extract financially from the game. And Tua is at a point where he's got generational wealth staring at him in the face. And I just don't think he was ever going to make that decision unless, and I'll let you start with this, Mike, unless he was forced to.
Yeah, there's forced to. It's also the way that we talk about it. And you mentioned concussion being like they're TBIs, right? Traumatic brain injuries.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality. But instead of saying someone has a concussion, they say they go into concussion protocol so that they can easily come out of concussion protocol if that serves the team and they feel like they want to do that. So that's the other part of it where like none of this is, they keep saying it's for player safety, but to me, when I watch, it's for what looks bad, what looks the worst. And then at the end of the day, you got to have your own doctor make a decision or help you make a decision, which is what we're seeing in the case of Grayson McCall. So it's one of those things that's going to be really interesting to see moving forward, how this all shakes itself out. With respect to Tua, no, he wasn't going to, no. Absolutely not. And
it just was. And the Dolphins need him. So the Dolphins aren't even worried about protecting him. The Dolphins are trying to win football games. And the other two quarterbacks they had can't help them do that. Let me forward this conversation back to NC State for Cory. CJ Bailey's played, whatever I just tried to say, played. I made that a two-syllable word. That's terrible. He's played very well. And they didn't turn it over in the win over Cal. Yep. So let me just say this out loud. I'm hoping that NC State can keep CJ Bailey. Do you have any qualms about that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one because here's the thing. I mean, and it's already being talked about with Pitt too, with Eli as well, with hosting. I mean, the fact that like, hey, you got to keep these guys out of the transfer portal as well. And I think the positive thing for NC State is seeing the trust that they're putting in him, seeing the development that he's going through this season already. Yes, there's going to be other teams that are probably going to call. The big thing for NC State is making it a priority that he's growing in your system and you're keeping things, light and, at the same time he's showing growth. And I think that's the biggest thing so far this season for him. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to try to keep him this offseason. But at the same time, as far as the progression that he's made, as far as what you're seeing from him, like, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I know obviously Freshman of the Year in the ACC is open to any freshman, but there are True Freshman of the Year awards, like 24/7 Sports does True Freshman True Freshman Team All-Americans. He's kind of on track for that. I mean, as far as the quarterback position, obviously, like I said, Hosteen has been brilliant, and there's some redshirt freshmen across the country that have been really good so far this season. Especially with the way Dylan Raiola has kind of, gone, I don't know. I mean, I guess not gone off the rails necessarily, but like just had a 3 interception game. Yeah, he's not looking great. So if Bailey continues on the track that he is, I mean, he's already, I think, 1 touchdown less than Raiola right now in terms of the passing game and has less interceptions than him, has, I think, around the same amount of yardage. So, like, he's on track to being in that discussion. Again, that kind of brings up the discussion of if you get there, how much are teams across the country going to be calling his agents, his NIL people, and saying, hey, we'd love to have you down at, Miami that's losing Cam Ward next year, or, say, God forbid, Jalen Milroe goes to the NFL and, you need somebody at Alabama. Like those types of teams calling a CJ Bailey would make it tough to turn down.
Yeah, that's that. In some ways, not to give Tony Bennett and his decision to retire. I know it's a different sport, but I think that's the kind of thing that drives coaches crazy, is that it's increasingly more difficult to build continuity in a roster. Now, Virginia generally recruits players that they can kind of build continuity, but I'm sure Tony Bennett has found it more difficult. But
hang on, Gold. Have you seen the zeros on these guys' paychecks?
I would imagine for some of them it's substantial.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm
good with it. I'm good with it.
Do your job. And do your job.
Oh, the coaches.
Program.
Right. Okay, yeah.
The coaches. I'm talking about the coaches.
You're talking about the players or the coaches here?
No.
The coaches. I'm talking about the coaches. I'm talking about do your job. I don't feel bad for them. And every time there's a clip from Mike Tomlin that he goes, I love coaches that run from coaching. It's your job. Do your job. And I think that for me, with respect to Bailey, the biggest thing for me is, one, make him feel involved. And not just involved like as far as quarterback play and development, but also make him feel involved with picking pieces. If he's going to be your quarterback for the next 3 seasons, make him feel involved. Make him feel involved with the recruiting aspect of it. Make him buy in.
Right.
Make him feel like he is a part of not just the on the field product, not just NIL deal, but also a part of what we're bringing, the vision that we're creating. And that is, I think that goes a long way. And then make sure everybody else feels bought into him too. Like we see programs where there's buy-in or there's payout. And those are two different things.
Yeah.
If a program can pay out, Auburn can pay out all they want. But guess what? Mm-hmm. If you don't got buy-in,
right,
then all of a sudden you're going to be looking for a new head coach soon. And I just think that having CJ also gain weight, but also buy-in, like I think that buy-in is huge because you feel like you are a part of the product and you're a part of what you're putting on the field. And I think that through who they recruit, through even if they're recruiting people through the portal, right, those guys as well they're gonna have to matter. And that's the part that makes it feel like he's playing like he's part of a family. So, Corey, what is it? One pack, what is the thing? I don't know.
Yeah. One pack, one goal. And the thing I'll say, too, to add to that as well, on top of what you're saying, like the numbers that he's putting up right now, 300-plus yards in 2 straight games, 2 touchdowns in 2 straight games, those are numbers that by a true freshman have not been put up at NC State since Phillip Rivers. Like, that's how far back you're going right now. So, yes, other teams are seeing that, but also, to add to that, maybe the NIL discussions start a little bit early, too. Like, you come to the table and say, hey, based on where things are going, we understand that other teams are going to be calling. We don't want you to even think about that. We want you to know, hey, we're going to have your back for next year, and go ahead and start those discussions so that you don't take the other calls as seriously as you might beforehand.
All right, I don't want to get into this conversation.
Call up Phillip, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the thing. An endowment, right? You can call up Phil. You can call up Russ. And I was going to get to Russ before we get out of here. But without getting into the discussion, because we could be here forever. This is where collective bargaining is necessary. Tony Bennett talked about it at his press conference. He's not against the athletes getting everything they can get out of the system. I am in favor of the athletes sharing in the revenue that they help create. I'm all for all of that. Collective bargaining is protection also for the schools. So they can know exactly what the rules are for building and maintaining a roster. Players will still have the freedom to move. They will always have that freedom to move, but there will be rules that go along with it. And right now, you can go anywhere every year. And again, I'm okay with that. But collective bargaining will protect the schools. So let me get to, since we were sort of halfway there already, Russell Wilson looked pretty doggone good for the last 3 quarters. And have we all moved on from Justin Fields already, Mike?
My dad's a Steelers fan, so I have to kind of pay attention to them at least. And
well, they're good now.
I don't think they've moved on from Fields. I think what's happening is we're seeing a veteran quarterback kind of feel more comfortable in an organization. And I think that's huge, right? He was, let's be fair, he was awful for the Broncos.
Oh, terrible.
Very good for the Seahawks. What do the Seahawks have? Community, structure, and actual culture. What do the Steelers have? Community, structure, culture. And I think that we're going to see him play like he's going to end his day like he's on the back to the tail of his career, but I think he's going to end on a good. He's going to feel good about walking out of that building whenever he's done.
He's on the 16th tee of for those people who play golf. He only got 3 holes left.
Can I add something to that really quickly?
Sure.
You asked what do they have that the Broncos didn't. Another thing I would add to that, they didn't really have playmakers with the Broncos either. Like Cortland Sutton. Hasn't looked good anywhere outside of maybe a little bit with the Broncos. I mean, you look at the playmakers that are surrounding him, especially in the running game with 2 running backs, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, and then having George Pickens and a reliable tight end and Pat Freiermuth. Like, they've got pieces around him that I think make him look better too. And then at the same time, like you said, I mean, yes, he's a veteran. He's a guy that comes in there, feels comfortable. I don't know that they're ready to move on from Justin Fields, but this makes Mike Tomlin's life a little bit easier. He doesn't have to go immediately back to Justin Fields. So I think that was the concern in doing all this. Is like, all right, if you go to Russell Wilson and he does not look good, you are going to have to figure stuff out because you can't just suddenly bench him right after you put him in as a starter. So I think this makes his job a little bit easier, but at the same time, yeah, Russell Wilson looked really good, especially late in that game. Knocked the rust off a little bit. In the spirit of Halloween, knocked the cobwebs off. So yeah, he has a chance to be that Seahawks quarterback that we saw. Maybe he doesn't have the same arm strength, or the same running ability, but he has the decision making and the precision there as far as his accuracy to be able to make a difference for the Steelers as well.
Yeah, his last year in Seattle wasn't great. First year in Denver, he was playing for Nathaniel Hackett, who was awful. And then he was playing for one of the great jerks that has ever coached in the NFL, in Sean Payton, and that couldn't have been any fun for anybody. And Russ probably, I don't know, maybe, and you were right, by the way, the playmakers that they did have in Denver were all hurt, right? Jerry Jeudy was in and out of the lineup, and Javonte Williams couldn't stay healthy, and they just weren't the same, they didn't have the same quality, but if the offensive line can just continue to progress in Pittsburgh, I wouldn't want to play him. That defense is too doggone good. All right, Felder, one more thing. No. This is good. Bryce Young. We have no Adam Thielen. We have no Deontay Johnson. The offensive line is intact. I'm not sure that's a positive. Denver's defensive line in terms of rushing the passer and stopping the run is pretty good. Are you optimistic about the Panthers' chances in Denver on Sunday?
No.
I think they're throwing this kid. They're throwing this kid to the wolves. I just don't think they care.
Here's the thing. I'm going to do one of two things. This is the 4:00 game or the 1:00 game?
I think it's the 4:00 game because it's in Mountain Time, so it would have to be a 4:00 game. Yeah.
So, well, my kid has her first kind of competitive swim meet at 1, so I was hoping I was going to get out of having to worry about.
Look, swim meets last 8 hours. You're not going to see anything.
No. This is her first time trial swim meet with the new competitive swimming. So she's going to be there for 45 minutes. That's it. In, out. All the U8s are all they're going to knock it out, be done, do all 4 strokes, and we're out of here. But no, I do. I was listening to Peyton Manning. I was listening to Tom Brady. Both of them have said similar things where, and it's the opposite of what we all think about with a David Carr. Peyton Manning threw 30-something interceptions his rookie year. Tom Brady didn't get to play until obviously Drew Bledsoe got hurt, and then they were like, "You have to do everything."
Yeah.
And I do think that I think there is some merit to not coddling Bryce Young. I do think that there is some merit to that. And if you listen to 2 legends of the game talk about how we dumb the game down and the game, we don't let kids make mistakes. And if they make a mistake, we immediately pull them. And then all of a sudden they don't know how to face adversity. They don't know how to overcome it. I do think that matters. And I thought about that a long time because I think there's a huge difference between getting beat up like David Carr did when he got drafted by the Texans. There's a difference between getting beat up and making mistakes. And if they can keep Bryce Young upright, keep him from getting hit, keep him, well, that's the thing. That's the part that's the bigger problem to me is I don't want him to get hurt. I don't want him to get hit constantly, but let him make mistakes. You're not going to be any good anyways.
Right.
Let him make mistakes. Let him learn what defenses look like. Let him learn this stuff. If you can work really hard, I don't care if you have to do 3-man routes with max protect, and you let him make mistakes, even though you don't have your top wide receivers, let him make some mistakes. Mistakes build character. Mistakes help you realize that the biggest thing is learning from those mistakes. And obviously, Peyton Manning, one of the greatest guys to ever pick up a football at the quarterback spot, he made a lot of mistakes. Brett Favre, another guy a lot of folks would put on their Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks. This guy made mistakes up until the end.
He never got over those, but that's all right.
Yeah.
He got from the Falcons.
He made a lot of great plays, but he never got over the mistake.
I was talking about the on the field mistake.
Right? No, I wasn't even talking about off the field. He made a lot of mistakes. He made more mistakes off the field than most. He's certainly gotten away with most of them.
If you can keep him up and he can protect himself, and you can help work to protect him, I think there's value in a team that's going to finish in the bottom bottom 10% of the NFL.
Well, the Panthers?
Yeah,
by the bottom 1% of the NFL.
Okay, fine.
They're the worst
bottom
team in the league.
1%. Sure. Okay. They're the worst team in the league.
It's sad. They are the worst team in the league.
Try to keep him.
Can I add one?
Go ahead. Yes.
I was going to say, can I have one small positive? You mentioned the offensive line. I do, NC State shout out here. I do want to give a shout out to Ike Ekwonu, who currently ranks top 10 in like every blocking category across PFF right now. I think he's top 5 in pass rushing or pass blocking, which is
he really
huge?
Yeah.
All right. Good.
He's been really good. I'm not saying the offensive line as a whole has been great.
No, it's been bad. Their pass block win rate as a unit is 27th in the league.
Yeah.
Eesh.
Yeah. There's nothing
so
good
not
about
so much the passers, right?
there's nothing really good about it. All right, give me a World Series prediction, Felder. Yankees, Dodgers.
Oh, I got to go with the Doyers, of course. My boy Steven Nelson is out there. Listen, I'm all day Dodgers. Like, let's go.
You're an Astros fan.
Yeah, I know. But Shohei's, the greatest Shohei on earth right now.
He is.
So let's go. And you see that? Astros, that's my Fear of God Astros hat. Got some more in the back. Of course, I'm an Astros fan. But I'm rooting for the Dodgers because my boy Steven Nelson, I think he's about to take over that gig, baby.
All right. Cory, what do you got?
I'm going. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Yankees fan by any means, but I'm going Yankees here, simply because of the fact that I think Carlos Rodon finishes it off Game 6.
Look at this.
He gets, I don't know if he can win in Game 2. It's going to be tough, again, Shohei on the road, all that different stuff. But I think they get a win. Game 6, they finish it off.
All right.
Rodon is one of my favorite college baseball players of all time.
All time.
Oh, God, he's so much fun to cover, man.
All right,
he was unbelievable. That slider was ridiculous at the college. It still is good, but like at the college level, just almost unhittable.
Yeah.
It's Cory Smith, Pack Bride, Mike Felder in the bleachers on Twitter, but also It's Felder the Substack. Check it out. Football, food, life lessons, all of that. He'll talk to you about dryer lint at some point. All right, fellas, we'll do it again. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.